Let's introduce troubleshooting of common problems in LaTeX. Let's also review some good strategy for finishing our typesetting and writing document. What to do at that time. We will also resolve problem with getting content into margins and review some common LaTeX warnings and what to do when we encounter them. LaTeX gives us a variety of warnings during compilation. Most of the warnings are harmless, and we should always focus on the result, on the PDF, on the layout, on what we see. If we are satisfied with what we see and if we encounter no problem there, we could be satisfied. However, there are some warnings which shouldn't be ignored because they could mean something that is hidden but still wrong. One such warning is label multiply defined. What does it mean? We have there a label in some floating environment which is a target of ref. So when we refer to some number of the floating environment, like figure 3.2, which is this figure, it is a target generated by command label. When we have a label which is defined multiply, which is the same in multiple floating environments, we can get a problem because we are referring to some floating environment, to some particular figure, but in fact the number could be of different figure. So we need to definitely resolve this label multiply defined. One of the ways how to resolve it, or the only way how to resolve it, is to change the labels. What is sufficient is to make it unambiguous, but we can of course change all the labels to make it unambiguous. Well, now we don't have this problem anymore, but we get another problem, which is reference undefined. Reference undefined means that we are referring to a number by a label which doesn't exist. We can see it in the output in form of question marks. So we definitely need to resolve it because this doesn't make any sense, and we can resolve it by using existing label. There are of course other types of warnings, and the similar type of warning regarding citations. Here you can see that in square brackets we have some bold text. There could also be question marks, and it always means that the citation doesn't work at all. Regarding warnings, we can see something like entry couldn't be found, or I didn't find a database entry, etc. So, if you see such a thing, you need to correct the citation. There could be multiple sources of problem. One of them could be simply a typo. Another could be, well, in case we use some citation database, we may not be loading it correctly. So in case you encounter something like this, check whether inside your citation databases, which you are correctly loading, there is this label. If it's there, then alright. If it's not, you need to add there the entry for it. Well, so these warnings are quite dangerous, and you need to correct them because they mean your output is incorrect, it's wrong. Then there are warnings which are more or less harmless, like some package warnings which says that something isn't as good as it could be. For instance, package bibliotex warning saying CS quotes package is missing and loading CS quotes is recommended. What is bibliotex? Bibliotex is a package for working with citations and references. CS quote package is a package to cite quotation marks based on your language setup. We may simply load this package by use package CS quotes and we get rid of this warning. Okay, so these are warnings. There are also other messages from LaTeX concerning quality of our output. One of them is overfull hbox. Overfull hbox always means that there is something which is too wide and it goes into margins. This is quite serious problem because when we break our page layout, it is always easily visible, and it is my responsibility as an author to make my page look correct. I cannot just say, hey, LaTeX did it wrong, because in fact I did it wrong. This looks bad. It looks like I didn't pay much attention to my work, so I need to make it correct. Well, what to do with too wide table? We can always change the content, or we can sometimes change the content. So we can, for instance, enable line wrapping in the table by changing the modifier from the single line modifier to paragraph modifier. And we can specify that the first column is 3 centimeters wide, or we can make it relatively to the width of page, like 40% of text width. So we enable line wrapping in table, and thus we make it narrower. Okay, that's one possibility, but this is not always possible, and this is not always what we want and need. So what next to do? Well, another way how to resolve the too wide content is to resize it. So we can use resize box, where the first argument of resize box is the target width. How wide do we want the content? The second argument is the target height, and the third argument is what we resize. So it's this table. We can again specify the width absolutely or relatively to the page. So let's say we want the table to be 90% of the width of the text. We don't need to specify height. We can have it computed automatically by exclamation mark. Okay, so this is one possibility, and often it works, but sometimes we don't like the output, because when something is really wide and we resize it, we can make it illegible. We can make it so small that it's not possible to read it correctly. Again, it's our responsibility to make everything legible. So when this is the case and we cannot resize it, there's one last possibility, and it is to take the table, turn it 90 degrees and place it on separate page. To achieve this, we need an extension package which is called PDF Landscape, like PDF landscape. This enables us environment called landscape. So we say begin landscape and end landscape. And by landscape environment, we define the page, which is in landscape mode, and inside we put whatever we want on that page. Note that we put there not only the tabular itself, but also its floating environment, including caption. Otherwise, it wouldn't look correct. The PDF Landscape package instructs PDF viewer to turn the page, so your audience don't need to turn their head. On the other hand, when you print out such PDF, all the pages are printed the same way, so this page, so this content is turned 90 degrees to the left. This is what to do with the content which is too wide. Sometimes we need quite an opposite thing. Let's say we don't like hyphenation in this foreign word and we want it to be on single line. What can we do about it? Well, one way is to rewrite the content which is before. So we can rewrite the paragraph to get this German word on either the previous line or the next line as a whole. So we can rewrite the paragraph, we can change it somehow and get the look correct. That's definitely fine, and if you can do it, this is the best way. Well, sometimes we can't do it, but still want the word on one line. Another possibility is to put it into some box, and the good one for this is so-called M box. So we put the word into an M box, and it makes it one entity. But come on, here we got the same old problem, overfull. So we got something into the margins, which is wrong. This looks wrong, and we shouldn't leave it that way. So the next thing we can do is to force line break. We can do it using the line break command, and the effect of the line break command is to put the line break here at this very place and to preserve the indented mode of the paragraph. Well, we resolved one problem but created another, which is underfill hbox. Underfill means that there is something missing to the line, and the effect is there are too wide interword spaces. This is not good, this is bad, because when we have regular interword spaces, the reader can read our text quite fast and efficient. When the interword spaces get too wide, it means that the reader needs to slow down and they get tired easily. The other effect is that the output looks ugly. So whenever you can, try to avoid this, but if you have no choice, then it's still better than to have something into the margins. That is absolutely wrong. So to sum up our strategy, before, while you edit your document, don't bother too much with such issues, with LaTeX warnings and with margins. Because while you edit, some of the problems are resolved by your editing naturally. On the other hand, before you do the final printout, definitely check your document, check the warnings, check whether there isn't something dangerous, and check your right margin. If there's some problem, resolve it, because the problems with margins are easily visible and make really bad impression of your work. So this is all about troubleshooting in LaTeX, and hopefully you don't get into much trouble with it.